Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
At first, we hit your gadgets with our state-of-the-art digitalized mobile studio with the debate on the road behind the wheels. Later, we launched our magnificent studios located on Plot 1A, Sawagude Close, Lukulinanganda, Machinde, Kampala, where we bring to you our must-watch shows like The Mighty Drive, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m., Hotline, Mondays, 7 p.m. As for legal matters, Twins at Bar, Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Wednesdays, 6 p.m. is Afro-Caribbean Link, where we connect Africa with the Caribbean. Voltage on Thursdays, 7 p.m., featuring a youthful panel. Interface with Dr. Kiza Besije every Friday, 12 p.m. with his call to action against injustices. Snap Talk, Saturdays, 6 p.m. with the trio. A must-watch, The Political Dice, Sundays, 8 p.m. with the duo that never stammers, and so much more. Watch us live on all our social media platforms. We are the Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Good evening, Uganda. Welcome to this edition of the Hotline Show. It is a Monday, and of course we are into a new month, and we are coming to the end of this particular cycle, or this particular year. I hope some of the goals that you set for yourself, for your organization, you should have realized a few of them right now. If not, it is still well and good. We can continue the next year, or you can even do something as early as this year. The country is continuing, of course, to mourn some of the people who died in Bulambuli. That was last week after a mudslide took more than 20 lives as we speak right now. Those are just a few of the bodies that have been recovered. But according to the police, more than 100 people have been missing from the time these landslides took place last week. We really stand with the people of that area, and of course just show our sincere condolences and sadness, and our thoughts are with the families of the bereaved. And of course this is something that has happened before. It is not the first time we have landslides in Bulambuli. There was a time in 2012 when those landslides happened before, but even up to today we are still losing people in the Elgon region and generally in eastern Uganda. When it rains heavily, we always have mudslides. I hope there's something that is being done by government, especially on such a crisis. Or are we even taking this as a crisis, or it's business as usual? Because normally in this country something happens, and after a few days, a few hours, it becomes business as usual. We return back to the same notion. So I hope this is something that can call the government and the people and the stakeholders really to rethink how best we can resettle people in those areas that are prone to landslides that happen literally every year. So we are saddened by what happened in that regard. Still in the news, Dr. Kiza Besije appeared at the General Court Martial today, and of course a lot of things have happened there. In a lot of remarks have been made by the defense but also by the prosecution. Counsel Aaron Kiza raised a few pertinent issues here and there, but as we speak right now, the lead counsel for Dr. Besije, Martha Karua, a former Justice Minister in Kenya, has unfortunately not yet got certification or acceptance to litigate in Uganda. So according to her, she will be receiving this accreditation or certification from the Uganda Law Council tomorrow. We wait to see what exactly and how this will really unfold. And does this really affect Dr. Besije's case? We shall also hint on that particular issue as we continue with the program. But also lastly, the East African community is commemorating 25 years of working together as the East African community. Uganda, Kenya and Tanzania were the founding members, but as we speak today, more countries have been added to the list of the East African community. Although this is something that is very, very pertinent and something that Ugandans have looked forward to, and Africans generally, as uniting, we are not as united as the real sense of the word. You know, these days we are having abductions from Kenya and neighboring countries. We had the same stories here with Rwanda earlier on a few years ago, people being abducted and sent back to Rwanda. And how does this really affect the politics? And when we look at the trade itself, Kenya has been buying a lot of commodities from Uganda, especially during seasons of plenty. Does this really cement the unity? What can be done to create a stronger East African community, a vibrant? There is free mobility of trade and persons. That is something that we can also commend. So where are some of the achievements of the 25 years of this unity, and what are some of the limitations really that we can work to improve to create a better East African community? And for that conversation tonight, I have two gentlemen, candid, as I may add. One is from the National Economic Empowerment Dialogue, that is NED. I have the Secretary General himself, Mr. Odaka Asuman, but also Mr. Honorable Joseph Ochieno from the Uganda People's Congress. Those are the two individuals that we have tonight, and we're going to be having that conversation. You can join in. Send in your comment, your message at The Alternative Uganda, at Digitalk TV, both pages on Facebook. But alternatively, you can use YouTube. We are also live on YouTube at The Alternative Uganda, but also at Digitalk TV. I'm going to start with you, Asuman. You're always here sometimes, but it's been a while since we last had you. Mr. Asuman, how are you? And you're most welcome to the hotline.
Thank you very much, Edgar. Good evening. And my senior brother, Joseph, from Tororo. So when I say brother, it is not, I'm not just throwing around words.
Exactly.
And the senior one, by the way.
Yes, sir.
And then our listeners, yes, it's true, I have been away. You've been sending the invitations.
Yes,
but up country here and there and so on, one making ends meet, but also trying to build a young organization.
Exactly.
It is quite a job to begin building, and you're building against this kind of environment that we all know. So that's why I've been a little away.
Okay, sir.
But following you and following Joseph when you were here every Monday evening. Yes.
Good. How is the need generally with your ideology? But it's a different ideology, just to add, for most of the political parties we have in the country.
Yes.
Yours is to bring back money to the pockets of Ugandans.
Yes.
How far along are you with your vision?
An ideology of a political party, somebody asked me that similar question.
Yes, sir.
But it is 1 year and some months ever since we started saying money in the pocket. But you see, you do not. Ours is to sell to you the idea and tell you how we can do it. And we do it, and you see, we ask for the steering. Give us the steering, you see how we drive the car. Yeah, because we know, we will tell you that the poverty in this country, and we've said it, poverty in this country has been weaponized. It is actually by policy. This is not, it's not that Ugandans are lazy. It is not that we do not have necessary things that can make Ugandans rich. It is simply because it is a weapon of occupation.
Yes.
And we tell you as a party, and like we've enumerated, and we are making our policy platform, a document like this, to show people that we know. If it is water, we know where the tap was, tightened. So all we will do when we have government is to untie the...
What you're trying to assert is that the poverty Ugandans feel is actually not by mistake. It's deliberate for them to stay in poverty.
It is. I will tell you that the most recent example is with the coffee, the recent fight in Parliament.
Yeah.
That he destroyed cotton, tobacco, all those traditional crops. And then somehow there are some regions that had started. You remember the issue with the coffee, didn't start actually recently. It started by the introduction of vanilla. The vanilla was actually to replace coffee. Vanilla, when some regions had cut down, the issue of Mwanyi Terimba, replanting coffee, was to replace the coffee cut down when they had been told
to plant
vanilla and cut coffee.
I'm here.
It was deliberate.
Yes, sir.
So when vanilla was really beginning to do well, they brought in the Moringa campaign.
Yes.
Again, they were told to cut down.
They are trying to diversify.
So now, when it was not diversification, it was
trying to bring other cash crops.
No, that's
the ones that we traditionally.
No, that is what that was the rhetoric, yes. But the practice was different. Eventually, the people around where coffee used to be the cash crop realized that these were all simple. These. So they went replanting coffee. Now, the coffee production came back to what the UPCs left.
We're saying.
Now, they realized now, around where coffee now had started bringing again money, people had started seeing real money out of coffee. That is the resultant. So, people will talk about coffee. You go to, I've told you about the Toro region. The difference between the tea in Toro and the same tea, not processed, nothing. Tea in Toro is about now 2,700 now. In Mombasa, where they sell it, just transporting from there to Mombasa, it is 6,300.
Wow, that's more than double.
So if it is not by policy, what do I tell you? You talk about, you see this in Kabale there, where there is iron ore. I will tell you that the iron ore in Kabale, you see those trucks coming from Kabale, people think, and going to Tororo, Simba Cement, let me say it, because the people think they are actually taking rocks for cement. They are stealing the iron ore in Kabale. They take it to Tororo, Simba Cement. There are trailers that bring those substances that are used for making cement. Come from Mombasa, not lime, from Mombasa. Come and load them up, because them they bring things, then going back they load the iron ore, and they don't use the traditional Malaba Busia border. They go via Ruakaka and go to the official border. So there are a lot of things.
Lastly, who are they? Who are those they?
No, the people in government.
Okay, thank you
people
so
in
much.
Government.
That is Odaka Asuman. He is from the National
So we will tell you that policy here,
okay.
I mean poverty here,
yes,
is just, it is managed.
Wow, thank you. Honorable Ochieno, you're most welcome, sir.
Thank you.
As you give us your opening remarks, I also want you to just highlight on the issues he raises, that the poverty that we see, that we decry, because this country is very, very poor, it looks like it's manufactured from a certain place.
No, not the country.
No.
The people are poor.
The
country
is rich.
Very rich.
The people in the country around
Yes.
are poor. Sir, you're most welcome.
Thank you. A critical number of Ugandans are living in dire poverty.
Yes, sir.
And it's criminal. In part, when I was coming to the studios, and in part because of the NRM mess, and in part because of the NRA infrastructure mess,
Yes, sir.
and in part because in order for me to come here on time, I have to dodge the Kampala mess of traffic. I kill 2 hours every Monday, just on top of my other travel. So in other words, it takes me about 4 hours. Literally wasted time.
To drive?
Every Monday, in order for me to arrive on these programs
Yes, sir.
on time, I will have to leave. If I'm to leave my home or my private office, I'll have to leave about 3.
Yeah.
And sometimes, depending on where, it's as early as 2 o'clock. Basically, in order to just come here, to spend the 2 hours here.
So practically your day has lost 4 hours already. You're working out of 20 hours.
Indeed. And it's a prime day, Monday. But number 2, today I decided that because I was coming to Machinde, and there are some criminals in Machinde court, I don't know who they are. I suggest it's not Kizza Besigye. unless found guilty. I didn't know what kind of traffic in this direction I'll find. So I left with extra time and made an arrangement to meet a fantastic young Ugandan engineer. Very proud of her.
Yes, sir.
But as I was waiting for her, a guy came through my window, not far from Zambia, my car window where I was parked. And this guy asked me for money. And now I wasn't sure it was about a thief. Some members of my family and some of my colleagues in UPs might say, why did I? But I responded. And this gentleman was genuinely stranded.
Yeah.
He had walked from Kawempe. He had an incident at work. An average 38-year-old, he said. Certainly not mad, certainly not a thief, but absolutely desperate in a very particular situation. And so I gave him some money, but he wanted something to drink because he hadn't tasted anything since morning. And the other thing is, he had had a particular incident with Asian employees, rather Asian employers, today. I chose not to run with it very much because I was also quite busy. I was actually doing some global discussion on my phone.
Yes,
And I didn't also want a distraction, and I didn't also want to go too much. But I should have really taken much of this information. But with the Asian employers, net slavery, criminality in my country. And I say, why did my grandfather's leg get broken fighting for the independence of this country? Poverty in this country. While I was waiting by your studios, I had to have a conversation with a PhD doctor, senior lecturer in a public university, who was looking for rescue money for a teacher whose husband is also a teacher but has got health conditions, and they're desperate, wanted a rescue for their family. Now, that is not the kind of poverty that Asuman is talking about. You can realize this is actually literary poverty. Literary, not illiteracy kind of stuff. But then if you go down to the bottom line, I just returned from Tororo. Broken bridges off Nagongara Road, and it's criminal. And shame on the people who beat up local councillor representatives and other activists in Toro. Shame on them. A few months ago, I went to Toro and had to call a press conference to deal with this, and I had to talk to the leaders, political leaders, including some of these NRA reps in Tororo about this thing. And Nagonga Road was broken, and another road was broken, and another road was broken.
Actually, Toro Town is now an island
It
of
mean-
some sort.
It remained some kind of mini island.
Because all the road Malaba.
But yesterday, I got SOS rescue requests from Nagongara from 3 different people, and they're absolutely dire SOS messages. Now, Nagongara is part of Bukedi, which according to the recent multi-dimensional poverty index, Bukedi is the poorest sub-region. But you know what? Nagongara is actually not, particularly West Budama, it's not necessarily the poorest part of this country. But it's that poor. I was in West Nile, and I was in West Nile last week. Go to Zombo in West Nile and look around. There's something criminal these NRA bandits have done in this country after 40 years.
And what is that?
The deliberate impoverishment of our people, the containment of our people into their homes and villages like mini slaves, the criminalization and formalization and politicization, what Asuman is talking about, it is actually net criminal. Do you know what, young man? It is actually net criminal. I was in a family in Zombo district, and that very large family, the highest level of education achiever was the woman we went to bury. She'd completed her senior 3.
Yes, sir.
20 years ago. In her wider family. Apparently in her family, there's even a retired soldier, so that would have gone up to senior 4. The most senior person in terms of academia in that family was a man, an uncle, who's often on the older side. The cousins, the nephews with whom I was engaging, were, I think, 3 senior 4 dropouts. And you look at this place, and you see nothing but despair and hopelessness and total poverty in the Republic of Uganda. So what he's talking about is neither here nor there. And interestingly, it's an area of coffee, amongst other places. And then you look at white families, and you realize, of many of the families, I did not know anybody in that family who's got access to 3 acres of land for themselves. And Museveni is walking around the company, campaigning on my money. I don't know about you. On my money, and my father's money, and my grandfather's money, and his. Okay? Nyongo, 4 acre model PDM. Do you know what? Basically, this guy's a bunch of liars. And you know, why did you start this topic?
Sad picture for the country in your
It is there, and as I said, and between there, travel from Zombo, come to Nebi, come to River Nile, come to Pakwach, and I missed Pakwach Bridge by hours. Or else I nearly traveled to the other side of Achole and I've been cut off. Museveni after 40 years.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for watching the Hotline Show. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. I'm still with Honorable Joseph Ochieno from UPC and Honorable Odaka Asuman from NED. That's the National Economic Empowerment Dialogue Political Party. I want us to first comment on the issues in Bulambuli. Sir, people are lost, have lost their lives, over 20 of them. But it's not the first time this is happening, Asuman. And this is a region that we know is prone to landslides. It has happened before, many people have died, some have been relocated. Up to today, people are still dying because of these reasons. And I saw the excavation, and people are using hose to look for, for you know, dead bodies of people, people who are missing. Sir, what is really your assessment on this issue of Bulambuli?
Number one, I am hesitant to call that death out of natural disaster.
It's a
because
death out
it is
of natural
not.
disaster.
Natural disaster,
Yes, sir.
normally, okay, well, if it is natural disaster,
Yes.
but they are out of things you could predict and so on, or you could not, you could be excused. But number one, this one is natural disaster, but out of things we could predict.
We know.
We know. And we know, and about 4 weeks before that thing happened,
Yes, sir.
some people from Prime Minister's office were around that place, and they were the ones shouting that there is going to be, there's a crack, and they did nothing.
The same issue of Kitezi, because also Kitezi was like that.
I'm coming there.
Let's continue.
I'm coming there.
Yes, sir.
So after 4 weeks, they went and they made a report, and there's a report, and they said there is a huge crack, and therefore we're expecting. Now, exactly after 4 weeks, the whole thing buries people. They are saying about 100 people, 110, and I don't know how many have been resumed. But look here. 2 years ago, is it 2 years ago? But every year, there is landslide. Every year. Whether it kills people or not.
Yeah.
Normally, you journalists only pick when it kills people.
Exactly, but sometimes it's always there.
But it is every year, sometimes twice a year.
Yes.
In that same Elgon area, but before that,
Yes, sir.
when this thing happened, do you know they called UNRWA? Why people were using the hose? They called UNRWA. The UNRWA boss in Eastern region said the graders they have issues with mechanical issues. And therefore they did not have. By the time they got, I think it is even a private company that took those graders that were exhuming people.
Wow.
That is a country for you, that somebody has been in power for 40 years. Number two, you see why I am hesitant and I want to call it murder. Look at the Kitezi one here.
Yes, I remember.
You remember that even when the Kitezi thing happened, when it is when the Prime Minister and then Honorable Lilian Abe arrived there, that's when they are beginning to call the people with the, for people who are traveling the grader. And you know the laughable thing that happened. First of all, they realized that actually the graders were not for UNRWA. These ones in Kitezi, you remember? And this, likely that's what should have happened. The graders were for UNRWA, and the owner had even taken them. Now, even the owner, in addition to the owner taking them, the driver of the had gone for leave. Can you imagine a country? How can you manage a country like that? So when you look at the entire thing, A to Z of the entire thing, it is simply negligent, it is simply incompetence of people managing.
Haven't they tried to resettle these people? Different resettlement.
But let me tell you,
I saw a couple of beautiful houses that
yes,
were built
they went. There are people who were resettled. You when you go to Bunambutie,
yes,
Bunambutie there are people they built. You remember the number of houses they said?
Yeah.
They built less than a quarter of them. And even those that they built, it is themselves who took the houses.
What do you
Not
mean?
just the
What do you
people
mean?
who were
No. People in government. Let me tell you. And those were two things I have been studying. One, they did two things in Eastern Uganda. That one and the Kasoli housing in Tororo. Now, what happened was that when they were resettling people, they said everyone who is entitled to settle in one of these houses should pay 2.5 million. 2.5 million. This population that Honorable Joseph has been describing, to afford 2.5 million. Now, people who could afford 2.5 were coming from Kampala. You go and check the kind of people who went and settled in those houses in the Bunambutie are the very people the same people who settled also in our own Kasoli down there, the cheap housing estates in Kasoli. So everything being done in this country, it is very painful. Yeah. You can't fail to call them criminal.
Okay.
Because they do things that are only annoying.
You also mentioned something about, I feel like they are reactionary. As government, we react after a problem. It's never about planning for the problem, and yet that is the main essence of a government.
Their issue, every time they plan to make a budget so that they steal, but not to help anyone. Any planning, any little planning, they plan to create a budget so that they steal. So that was... I would even hope that since this Kampala thing, where Museveni is the manager, embarrassed him and he took some of these people to prison.
That's what I was going to even ask
I thought maybe the Prime Minister, the ministers and so on would also now be facing criminal negligence before court.
Oh, okay.
But nobody is doing that. Right. So the entire thing, it is just government. But let me tell you a story. There's a story within the okay, it is an Arabic story that says that a country, there were two friends. One wanted to build, and then he had his metal bars. So he went and gave his friend, said, my friend, keep for me. I don't have where to keep these hard metal bars. Yes. So this man kept the metal bars. So after some time, this guy came to pick his metal. I told him, my friend, sorry, the metal bars are no longer here because the termites came and ate the metal. The man said, what? Termites eating metal bars? So he said, okay, if there are termites that kill, no problem. So after some time, this man also said, okay, I also want to keep for me some bags of cement in your house. Yes.
So he kept the metal bag.
Yes. So when he also came for his cement, they told him, no way. Eagles came and carried. Say, man, how can eagles carry bags of cement? He told him, where there are termites that can eat metal bars, there certainly will be eagles that can carry. So in a country where somebody goes and tells you they have stolen 60 billion from Bank of Uganda, How can you expect?
You want to preempt my discussion?
I'm
You're
not
still
preempting,
watching
I'm
the
simply
hotline
giving you
show.
what is there.
Because everything seems to be
Abnormal, upside down.
exactly. Let me come to you, sir. What do you think about the people neighboring your area of Lambuli losing their
No, there are
lives?
people. So we are in mourning. There are people. We are one sub-region. Mbale was once upon a time the capital of Bukedi, our sub-region, in fact, as it was a district at the time.
Yes, sir.
Number two, this thing has affected part of Bugisu and lower part of Tororo. Number three, the waters that will have come from there are waters that up to and include the waters that come up to, including Nagongera. And so these things are related. In terms of deaths, not everything is accounted, not everything else hits the headline. But also then, of course, we focus on the big stories in the big news, not the day-to-day livelihoods, the kind of stories I'm telling you about families that I had to experience, including yesterday morning and yesterday afternoon before I left Tororo. And in fact, I think they were rather lucky that it didn't pour yesterday and the other day, because if it did, it was going to come to a mini standstill. The temporary crossover for Tororo is massive. My tiny little kawish, as my Mulamu Betty Kame would say, suffered, and so it's an extremely dire situation in the East. But lest you forget, it's also sort of the same, if not the same, as in Kasese and, as I say, northern Uganda.
Even Nyamwamba always busts its
Now,
lungs.
I have called it criminal negligence, but I literally want to upgrade it to state murder. And the reason I upgrade it to state murder, not manslaughter in that sense, is because I have been at a panel with somebody from the Red Cross, public discussions. Apparently, part of the national emergency discussions that has been taking place nearly the last 10 years, Ochieno Asuman, is that these guys meet, this bunch, meet every month. Now, the expert guys on this, in terms of projections, are Red Cross plus others with the technology that exists, lest you forget, that exists to the precision. So what we discussed with Asuman is the capacity of this, terror state that abducts citizens from Kenya has got capacity to tell which day is going to rain.
Yes.
And partly it's not their technology from the crude bushes from Luero. It's modern technology
It's just
about meteorology.
modernization.
These things are there.
Yes.
They're there.
Yeah. We
So
also have a full
in fact, all of us
institute.
have got.
We have an institute
You
here.
can even abuse that institute in terms of whatever. But I'm just saying the facilities that the information. So apparently, Red Cross has information to the dot for Bukedi, to the dot in every district as far as issues to do with disaster is concerned across the country. So really, what is happening is that as we discuss this, the state continues to murder. This NRA state continues to murder, and it's deliberate. It's deliberate because they've got the information. They have the information.
They have the information.
Because at times they have also put out this information to inform Uganda it's going to rain between this time and this time.
So
And we
there is
prepare.
nothing that happened in Bulambuli that Mr. Museveni's regime did not know. There is nothing that happened there, and that Nabanja, if she's a beautiful dancer and she can dance Kandodi, this woman, is she from Bunyoro? If she can dance Kandodi, and she's really, really, really a prime minister worthy of her name, she must have the information.
So is it just
You know,
adamancy? What is it that
I have told
that
you,
lets these
no,
things
I've told
happen?
you, deliberate criminal murder. NRA's number one object from the time these bunches came from the bush was to capture state, keep it for themselves. Now Mr. Museveni is perfecting the art of remaining there, and perfecting the art of remaining there for himself, his family, his extended relatives, and a few people, including a few from the east, who eat the crumbs. That is basically the reality. So basically, this is a stateless state, if you talk about state in terms of state institutions and systems that work. Now, Ugandans better wake up. That is actually the reality. And now part of my problem is, as Odaka is saying it from his chronic proverbs, no, these things are going to catch up with everybody. It will catch up with you, young man. Because some people think the Ochieno, no, this thing is going to catch up with everybody. When Nagongoro Road broke, it caught up with everybody, including the bunch of shouting NRA guys.
You mentioned something that when it rains in this city, for just an hour or two, you see the flooding that is literally everywhere.
I have told you.
So one time I asked if it ever rains for a full week non-stop.
It will not be a full week. I actually told the same program on Friday in Kampala that actually all it needed to do was to do another extra 1 day. And what I predicted 15 years ago about the state of infrastructure in Kampala, all it needed to, by the way, it needs to rain in Kampala here for 2 continuous days. Forget about the other one, for 2 continuous days, and Kampala will come to a standstill.
No, heavy rain for 3 hours. 3 hours.
Yeah.
It will come from a
Because it
standstill.
rains for 1 hour
Now,
and you cannot cross.
Now this rain is coming. This rain, and when Ochieno says global warming, and the NRA bandits feel excited, oh yes, it's environment. Nonsense, it's not. You know, they cut down our muvule trees. They built funny, crooked family hotels at golf course. They broke our swamps to build dubious settlements for Chinese and Indian and some of their own settlements. They like this open, and NEMA is there. Meaning it's a criminal thing happening on your watch and over you. And some of you guys think, no, you're doing a favor to Uchienos and UPC. No, we're waking you guys up. No, Ugandans, just wake up and abandon this bunch of NRAs and simply say, Museveni, you've had enough for 40 years. Some areas you don't accept, you don't have a clue because you came from the bush with the economics. You don't have a clue. Just let some other Ugandans start, and we begin to think as a nation state, and we plan going forward. Because some of the things which are happening, it's not going to happen. They're not doing it because they're not interested. Some of them, they just don't know. But the truth is, it is urgent what's happening in this country. So these guys have cut down all the trees. These guys have cut down all the forests. Even Mabira is gone. There are no trenches, there are no drainage. The infrastructure thing is dead. In 1988, Museveni boasted that his NRA engineering unit is going to build trains, and they're not there. You know, we continue to burn fumes in the streets of Kampala instead of riding bicycles and riding my train to Nagongera as they used to go to. So basically, yes, part of it is climate change as a part of reality, but we are least prepared.
Okay, it's talking about preparation. It brings me to the next issue of the $17 million that were robbed from Uganda.
No, the $7 million.
Yes,
which was taken by
more
the.
than 60
No,
million.
it was not robbed. It was taken by the national thieves.
According to what we know, right
It
now,
was taken by
hackers.
it was taken by the
But
national
my
thieves.
question is, how can just this money be robbed just like that and it disappears?
Museveni gave Rocco 500 million shillings. I told you program. Were you ever know it? You were not. Were you people know it? 500 billion. Museveni gave it to Rocco.
Yeah, even Lubowa is still.
Those are part of the deal. So now, this, and of course next year they're preparing to come and give you new 5,000 Uganda shilling notes. So we're going to get rescued. So elections coming next year.
And
So-
they're trying to say
so,
as directors Uganda.
No, it's a continuation of perfecting the art of national theft in a formalized way using funny, dubious tricks. The trips of Museveni going around to inspect, when you pour water in the plants, what do you call it?
Watering.
Right?
Yeah, watering.
Planting those things across the country. It's not enough for the money. The PDM thing is not enough. Boasting about farms, whatever. I don't know how many farms Museveni's grandfather had. I don't know, for money, economy. I don't know, whatever kind of stuff. No, it's not enough. No, this is just basically eating and using of money. Now some of the officials around the country doing the thing called they're doing digital.
So you feel it's an inside job?
Of course it is an inside job.
Okay.
It's an inside job, but unfortunately, it's an inside. Had it been an inside job over Bank of Trump and America United, whatever, I wouldn't care. But it's an inside job on our money
Why
and
do
my
you
money.
think it's an inside job, sir?
And why not? Straightforward, common sense thing. In any case, actually, you guys in the media have even also already said some of these things. Bank of Uganda, public official, minister. Add 1 + 1. So who hacks? Who hacks for that, man?
They are hackers.
No, they're hackers, but this one is an insider job. Mr. Museveni just give us the report. So,
Okay, let me come to Asuman. Asuman, what do you think about that haste of the money of Ugandans?
First of all, the issue that it was through hacking is a new narration.
Asian hackers.
Yes. The original information was that the money was stolen.
yeah.
Where did you get this information?
You remember?
Asuman?
No. From the public. You remember the issue of hacking is an invasion of yesterday, and that's how they Bank of Uganda even released made a press release and told us it is hacking. But the original information is that the money was stolen.
Give us more about that.
That was up to yesterday.
That side that
and
you
we
have.
all know that when they talked about stealing, I think it is simply what Uganda would call chava tulira. Because, there are only 3 ways how money can be taken from the central bank. Number 1, it's through a transfer to the commercial bank. Number 2, a bullion van. Number 3, and probably somebody simply coming physical and taking it away. Now, when that was done, and there is a journalist called Kariejira who dismissed it and made a write-up. That's how they then changed and said it was through hacking. So now, if the same people are telling you 2 stories, it reminds me a policeman at court martial who was giving evidence and said for him he has 2 signatures, all of them operational, and a policeman at the level of commission of police. So this country has so many dramas. Let me tell you. Okay, if 60 billion now, the second reason now. Second issue is that if 60 billion, what is 60 billion? He's telling you the man has given somebody 700 billion. He has given how much has Atiak sugar taken, and we have not seen a half kilo of sugar. Rubowa, how much has... Now, money is being thrown. So what is 60 billion? 60 billion is their pocket change.
But one would say
the third one.
There has been hacking before in countries like Japan.
Let me tell you.
They've hacked countries like United States and robbed from
Let
there.
me tell you.
How
and now it brings me to the third point.
Yes, sir.
If they can take away 60 billion through hacking, which is our money which we can see. Now, how do we believe that our reserves are there?
Because the question is, was that the only money that was there?
No, they are not. You see, they are simply telling us. They are telling us only about the figure that we know. If you read their press, they are not even telling us all the. Actually, what they are not saying, it seems to be more louder than what they have said.
What is louder?
They are now only addressing only the amount of money. And not telling us whether there is investigation, where there is what.
No, they say they opened up a case. Police is investigating. That's what they said.
Now, let me tell you. When you say stealing the other day, and today you're telling us it is hacking, and that's the basis for which hacking. Let me tell you, we also have some little IT in us, and and unfortunately they are talking to a generation that knows IT. You do not hack. Now, Bank of Uganda, which hacker will go to Bank of Uganda and only take 60 billion and leaves you the trillions you have?
Or maybe that was what was
That's
there.
One. Number 2.
But as man told you how they take money from Bank of Uganda.
Yes,
so you hack and then do what? So you hack and then it becomes magical.
No, you
the cash trucks.
You transfer it to your account.
This is really so the hackers. Now, 2, I will tell you that now when you hack, we have experts. Bank of Uganda is supposed to be having the best IT experts.
Yes, we agree. That
now, if they are to tell us now what preliminary report have the IT experts from Bank of Uganda found before they get to police? Where do they trace the hacking?
The only thing
because you see, hacking Hacking has a computer has pathways invisible.
Yes, exactly.
You see? Have they? Because me, I know 2 of my OBs who work in that department, very good people, top IT gurus. You know?
Yes.
Top IT gurus.
You can retrace to understand
they can
at what
trace
point were
and
we
understand.
stolen
So
from.
what are they saying? Let me tell you, this was an inside job. Maybe somebody did not have some pocket change. I will tell you, there is no hacking here. And in this case here, they have released all that has happened in this country, scandals that are in this country. This will die. It's going to die with the time.
It's going to fade off.
When did this thing happen? This thing happened last week.
Yes.
Why did the Bank of Uganda wait until today at 11 before they release the press release? Today at 11. Something that happened last week.
But they have been commenting on it, and they even
Who?
talked about
Who? What was more? What was the? Why would they just comment about the money about the central bank? And
Okay, maybe comment on what they said, that they tried to write to the Japanese government to maybe freeze the account where the money was put, and it was not yielding any fruit to that cause.
Now, a government that can go without following any law to abduct somebody from foreign countries cannot, because there is, as banks, central banks across the globe have a network under which they communicate. How can Central Bank of Uganda, a sovereign country, fail to communicate with the central bank or the banking network is such a way that it is integrated across the globe. Nobody will tell you that, you see, central bank don't operate like our families. That, you see, Edgar, please, my chicken has run to your place. Could you please chase it back? No. These people, let them not think that they are dealing with stupid people. They are dealing with the people who are awake, who know 1 or 2 things about how they operate in those things.
Okay.
They stole our money. That money is an inside job. If it is not an inside job, it is normally fundraising. These scandals are common towards election.
Edgar.
And maybe just to add, as you submit,
Mm.
just to add on, even recently there was a van that was stolen, robbed by its drivers themselves.
Here, somewhere around the Rubaga here, where they dropped the van.
They robbed here. 1 billion shillings.
1.6 billion.
What does this symbolize at a time such as this one, sir?
It's a police state. This is a nation in anarchy. Uganda under Mr. Museveni at the 39th year is a nation state in anarchy.
Anarchy is an overstatement.
No, Uganda is a state in anarchy. Which Ugandan institution works?
The president has praised UPDF.
No, which Ugandan institution works? An army that abducts? An army that abducts? So in our history, do you know that you compare that army with the Idi Amin's army?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. According to what they're doing, we can compare.
So which institution in this country works?
Unfortunately, Amin never abducted somebody from another country.
So do you get it?
Yeah.
So this is a state in anarchy where the official state steals. By the way, under Idi Amin, had there been a nonsensical incident like this,
yes, sir,
the Minister of Finance would go, the Governor of the Central Bank would go, the head of IT would go, the head of figures or whatever kind of thing would go, the chief of risks, I don't even know they have risks. In UPC you can advise on everything, you see, so even if you're not banking.
But Joseph, just information. We are talking about this one. Do you know that one time they went printed money, then they came and some pilots just disappeared?
And that money is still pending.
We forgot it like that.
Post Bank Uganda, which is the national still public domain, also has issues with money. Exactly. So no, this is a police state. So and it's a state in anarchy. And as I said, the mafias in charge of this country, from the time Bukenya told you, by the time Bukenya came and told you guys, for us we'd been telling you guys for 20 years. So you thought it was those Ochienos and the UPC. No. So it's a mafia state, it's a police state. I'm really asking Ugandans, and I'm sorry to bore you, Ugandans just need to wake up and know that they've been taken for froth, they've been taken for granted, you know. It's a masked thing that came from the bush, you know, it's not real. People should just simply say that, well, they've been signing for blank checks, you know, they've been taken for a ride. People just need to retreat back to themselves. Let go, NRA, and when you say Aizuru, when you've lost the cause, whatever, you know, you've lost out, you know, just start afresh. Yes, start from somewhere, and I hope, and as man, and other political parties, from my position, are very clear that we start afresh. We give Mr. Museveni a soft landing. We tell our people that we will not push to revenge, not push to break people's necks, but that Mr. Museveni must retire very urgently, leave NRA, and let a political party, a governing political party driven by a sense of values and ideals, whatever that political party is, I hope it's UPC, is able to give an opportunity. In any case, you don't govern, you don't control the power. And I'm saying this is a psychological thing that Asuman and I will have battles over, because any political party that is coming in power, I'm sure, average you're going to say, that one, they're coming for 40 years. No, by the Ugandans. No, ideally, governance is not for 40 years. Governance should not even be for 10 years. Governance, you give a political party a mandate for 5 years, and you hope that over 5 years they're able to do whatever they're able to do. Yes. And so long as you have an opportunity, if you're not happy with them, you get rid of them after 5 years through the ballot. So, but you know, the transitional period, which is an imperative, the transition reality, which is an imperative, is basically what we need to tell Mr. Museveni. But Ugandans need to know that they got a raw deal. They got a raw deal from the bush, and it's not going to take us anywhere. You know, if you see the pace at which money is being lost, the pace at which these guys are stealing from Mabati to Lubowa to everything else, and you see the broken systems that we've got in terms of public service and everything else. And like I was trying to say, look, except that in a means time, if it happened, you know, almost certainly it will not be Idi Amin. You know, and if it's anything to do with any of our means ministers, there would be a direct response. As I said, a minister would go, the governor would go, heads of department would go, in this case, heads of IT, they would go. They don't go. So Ugandans, if these people don't go, what is it? You're just being taken for a ride.
Well, lastly, we don't even have a governor back, so to speak.
Well, I wanted to say that, but I said it is no longer relevant, because somebody is signing on.
Thank you so much.
And finally, of course, why shouldn't we have a governor bank?
For 4 years without a governor.
You're still watching the Hotline Show. My name is Karuhanga Edgar Mathew. I am still with Odaka Asuman from NEED, and of course Honorable Joseph Ochieno from the Uganda People's Congress. We take a break now. When we come back, we highlight on the issue of Dr. Besigye. I want to hear from these two gentlemen on that issue, and then after we shall look at the East African community. How best can we really consolidate the East African community? What are some of the achievements, but also what are some of the things that we can do better to improve the East African community as a clique, but also Africa as a whole. Thank you so much for watching. You're still watching the Hotline Show.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
At first, we hit your gadgets with our state-of-the-art digitalized mobile studio with the debate on the road behind the wheels. Later, we launched our magnificent studios located on Plot 1A, Sewagude Close, Lukulinanganda, Machindye, Kampala, where we bring to you our must-watch shows like The Mighty Drive, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m., Hotline, Mondays, 7 p.m. As for legal matters, Twins at Bar, Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Wednesdays, 6 p.m. is Afro-Caribbean Link, where we connect Africa with the Caribbean. Voltage on Thursdays, 7 p.m., featuring a youthful panel. Interface with Dr. Kizza Besigye every Friday, 12 p.m. with his call to action against injustices. Snap Talk, Saturdays, 6 p.m. with the trio. A must-watch, The Political Dice, Sundays, 8 p.m. with the duo that never stammers, and so much more. Watch us live on all our social media platforms. We are The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi Rogers, Can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes, it can. Although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital.
Are you craving for that special meal that will entice your taste buds and leave you with lasting, thrilling memories? Look no further. Spice Island Bulenga has got your answer. Natural, fresh and delicious juice, the best meals. Don't miss our daily specials from Monday to Sunday. Pizza Wednesday, Saturday Pizza Bonanza, you buy one and take two. Come dine with us and feel the experience. We are located at Prime Shopping Center in Bulenga, Mitiana Road. For inquiries, call us on 0704111720. Spice Island, we treat your cravings.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. You're still watching the Hotline Show on this second day of December. The year is 2024. It's a Monday. And of course, if you're just joining us, I am still with Mr. Joseph Ochieno from what he calls the Mighty Uganda People's Congress. And also, I'm privileged to have the Secretary General for the National Economic Empowerment Dialogue, that is NEED, a political party that is trying to bring back money into your pockets. I don't know to what extent they're doing that, but for the last 1 year or so, they have had the mandate of trying to help Ugandans really build wealth for themselves. They believe this is a country that is very rich, but with a people that is very, very poor. In this second hour, I want us to just paint a picture of what is happening in the court martial, where Dr. Besigye is being tried as we speak. He has been remanded to New Zealand until the 10th of December. And of course, as they reorganize, trying to get a work permit for Martha Karua, the lead counsel on that particular case, this gentleman is charged with possession of arms. And of course, it's a laughable, I think, statement from Odaka. And I want to ask him why you laughed sarcastically as I started that. But generally, you were in the court martial today. You saw what happened there. Please paint a picture for us.
When you mentioned I laughed, why I laughed was number one.
Yes, sir.
What was in Makinde today was not anything close to court. When I looked at the charge sheet was in the first place. They were quoting some non-existent section And therefore no offense. That's Kiza Besigye. And we looked at it, and anybody with even elementary legal would really see. That's one. Number two, Besigye was an army man, but he retired as a civilian. Now, when you get a civilian and you go charge him in the court martial for offenses that are created by the penal code, then what are you communicating? Are you communicating that you're rendering the penal code redundant? Because there are those being possession of firearm is an offense under the penal code. And the civilian court or the civil court handles that. And it has handled the number. But also the general court martial handles. No. The general actually even the use of court on that thing called general court martial is a misuse of word. It is a tribunal. Yeah. That's why even in the hierarchy of courts in this country, court martial is not doesn't feature. It is a tribunal. It is a tribunal to discipline. It was formed for administrative purpose of men and women in uniform and in the military under the UP. Because that's why it is created under the UPDF Act.
So do you want to say that it is illegal for the General Court Martial to charge people who have been found
absolutely
in possession
we have had
of
it too.
Guns and ammunition?
Yes, we have had even two. Whatever offense that a civilian commits, he has no business in the court martial, by the way. So
what are the new people doing there? What is Dr. Besigye doing there? What are the 36 FDC members doing there?
It's NRA criminal impunity.
You see, when you read from democracy to dictatorship, they are what they call tools and walking sticks of dictators. And such tribunals are one of those tribunals, because dictators, there are points they reach and think that they may not have absolute control over some institutions, that even when they have, they are the ones who establish them, and therefore want to establish some institutions that they have 100+ control over. You know that the General Court Martial or that tribunal under the UPDF Act is 100% under the commander-in-chief. You know that of all institutions and leadership positions in this country that the Constitution gives as nominated by the President and then seconded by Parliament, yes. It is only the CDF that nobody else has. It is only the President, the Commander-in-Chief. So when you look at that court, and that court is somehow within the administrative boundaries of the CDF.
Yes.
You get it?
Somehow.
So it is the walking stick of the regime. Now, we have about 2 cases Constitutional Court. One of them, Kabazi Guruka.
Yeah, 2017.
2017. There's another matter that has that is stuck, and today lawyers are talking about going to interface with the Chief Justice over the same thing at the Supreme Court, over the same thing. What the hell are civilians doing in? You see that court, by the creation, where it is created, the UPDF, not even a policeman is supposed to be tried there. Not anybody.
Just a soldier.
It is to be a soldier. I think section 199, if I've not forgotten, you know what it says? It says that if an inmate has been detained under the General Court Martial for about 6 months without his case or her case taking off, his commanding officer is supposed to release him and make a report. You get it? Now, in anticipation, who is the commanding officer of the new people of Wesi? Nobody, none is this commanding officer because he's not a soldier.
Yes.
So that's why when these new people were there for 4 years, there's nobody who would, yes, there was nobody who would operationalize that section because they have no commanding officer.
How would the president then forgive them?
No, even that, let me tell you, even that prerogative of mercy, so-called by the president, was an illegality. Because you know an illegality you can't legalize something brought under illegalities. It is absolute nonsense, absolute impunity. It is just an abuse of power. The existence, that court, if you even see, when we went there as lawyers, you begin, I told the lawyers who are there, I told them, you see, don't expect don't begin telling people about decorum here. Decorum is only done in court. This is not a court. Because you don't want a lawyer to enter with the phone, a lawyer, because now this is a generation where phones are tools of trade.
Exactly, to them.
Because you cannot, all the laws of Uganda, you can't begin carrying. They told the Council Lukwago not to come with a bag because the lawyers carry their files in those bags. They told him not to carry with. So they want the man to come with a pickup of laws, but carrying. And yet, simplified, we move with the iPad, we move with our phones, and everything is there. So you don't want me to come come with my phone, which has those from where I can do. Because if you mentioned a section which I am not, I will open very fast to reference. Now you don't want me to come with that. Number two, you even want to limit. General Court Martial, they even limit the number of lawyers. You see, the Constitution gives anybody, first of all, right to fair hearing. Right to fair hearing includes the unlimited number of lawyers you can contract. General Court Martial wants you to have because it is there.
I get you.
So there is really nothing about justice being dispensed by that court. Okay. And I will tell you that for me, if I were the Martha Karuas and the Council Ukwago, the issue is not even, anybody who will even say BSG asks for bail from that court will be wanting to dine in those illegalities. The demand should be one. If you don't
get that bail, you can even stay there.
Let me tell you, the only thing, the condition should be, I spoke to Martha, I spoke to Rukwaga, the only thing lawyers should now be putting across here, drop these charges, BSG is not supposed to be before you.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me come to you, sir. He paints that these court martials are instruments that are used for political persecution. To what extent do you feel his narrative?
He doesn't paint. He says it, and it's true. This is a nonsense. This is a stain on the conscience of my country. And it's a stain on the conscience of anybody who has gone to law school. You know, I was supposed to have returned to do law before this bunch chased me into exile, but I missed law, then very competitive in my career by 0.2 points, thanks unfortunately to the death of my mother in the early part of my secondary school. And in my year, it was the first time that I had started using O-level results. And I chose for other reasons not to pursue, but this is a subject of my keen and close interest. But look, this is a police state, is a state in anarchy, is a military state, is a state that operates with impunity. Mr. Museveni has applied impunity since he came in 1986. How long it's going to take Ugandans to wake up, I do not know. It's beginning to worry me sometimes. He applied his bad boy, spoiled kid kind of stuff in Luweero. He applied it during the UNLF administrations. He applied it during part of the liberation wars leading to 1979. Many Ugandans sensibly held back this man. How long it takes, I really don't know. That is going to do it to his own body. Kizza Besigye is extremely unfortunate. And particularly as Odaka is saying, to the fact that actually there, I think there is a constitutional court ruling debarring this process.
Two of them.
Besigye should not have been sent there in the first instance. But because of impunity and because of the criminal manner in which Mr. Museveni, checks his opponents, and the manner in which his special trainee boy, Ruto, is also doing it in Kenya, Kizza Besigye, who traveled to Kenya formally and legally, ends up in a Nairobi hotel, ends up being criminally abducted by really basically military states in Kenya, completely unconstitutional and illegally. If Besigye had committed an offense in Kenya, Besigye ought to have been tried in Kenya and go through the due process in Kenya. And if it was something that therefore then went ahead and bothered the Republic of Uganda, Mr. Museveni knows if he really, really wasted our money studying in Dar es Salaam because we paid for him in Dar es Salaam, he should have known that there's a due process. And so Uganda needed to have asked for extradition, as it were. So it's a long process. Yeah. In any case, anyway, perhaps by the time you reach there, maybe Besigye would not necessarily have a case. After that, they banned this guy and bring him down here. As I said earlier, no, this is worse than Idi Amin if you consider the manner and level in which it is happening. And that you find the international community, the whole world looking through and people going through and the Dakas down there, it's going on like this. It's shameful. And it's a huge amount of waste of public resources, and we're talking about it like that when I know families, me, Ochieno, I know not one, not two, not three, not five. I know families today who are going to bed without food.
Yeah.
I know families in this country who don't have where to sleep. Yeah. I know children in this country who tomorrow will wake up and they do not have a tiny little pair of shorts, including that one you get from Chikuba at 4,000. And I know, and there are many, And so wasting a public resource like this, it's actually criminal. So the only thing is, I think Ugandans need to mobilize, organize, and say no. But because we have in some element of incapacity to do so, these guys basically are generally continuing to do so.
Just a quick one. Besigye has been here on this show before, not specifically, but this TV.
Yeah.
And he has mentioned that most of these operations are done to justify budgets. Someone will say there is a certain threat, we need a certain amount of shillings, give it to us, then we shall neutralize this threat. To what extent is this something that you can justify? But also maybe, but first answer that.
Well, whatever the case, I don't think it justifies this, because they said it, but whatever the case basically is confirming a sense of impunity, that actually this is a regime that basically lives on fleeing people, and they'll do so, and Besigye continues from now and again to become a victim. And in Besigye's case, because it's of a particular class and level, and that way, the loss of resources are going to be used. There's some missives that are doing the rounds, including one that suggests that some people in Museveni's security apparatus might have debacled on this, including some of the names that I know, including some of the people with whom I crossed paths about reports and information about Kizza Besigye. But it's a shame. Poor Kizza Besigye. I've told other people, not personally this ground, the first time I became personally sympathetic, feeling like in my skin, was when Besigye was bounded, and I wrote about it, bounded, like a goat, and carcass for hands and pushed into that.
2011.
That's extraordinary. You can't treat a Ugandan citizen like that. And the NRA guys, let me just say, the NRA guys are very lucky, actually, that they do that to a prominent Ugandan leader of opposition, they get away with it. Yeah. And they do that to somebody who's actually a former soldier, and they do it. And the most insulting and shameful thing, if you people don't know the level of limited hearts Museveni and this bunch you do have, that they do that to somebody who was once upon their comrade. And Museveni, really, really, my Jesus is watching, and they do that to somebody who may actually have contributed to your to saving your life. It is extraordinary. But Somebody said that I don't know what you're going to say. Someone said that Besigye is capable of committing this. I said, what nonsense? The issue is not about whether or not
the wife, Winnie Byanyima, said that they've tormented their family for the last 25 years or so. Yeah. But can you comment on the amount of evidence that has, when you listen to the audios and such content that really implicate Dr. Besigye?
By the way, Asuman,
and many people are believing
you've listened to that, haven't you? I got 1 minute of it. I really didn't have the time, and I'm not quite sure whether it was or him. You listened to it, but in any case, maybe let's wait for that to be arranged in court, because in any case, I'm not quite sure whether there's an audience who's basically possibly propaganda to check onto that. But in any case, the point is this, and I told a major global television network that in the extremely unlikely event, because I don't know, that Besigye committed, quote, these offenses. Yes. The bottom line remains the same. Besigye was kidnapped from Kenya, brought to Uganda illegally. Besigye should officially be in Kenya, because I'm sure his passport was not stamped back. Yes. And Besigye is in the wrong place. Besigye is in a military torture space in Machinde. Besigye should be in a police cell, in the very worst case, in Kenya. And because Besigye is a leader of opposition, he should actually be reasonably very well treated. Okay. What Museveni really needed to have done to Besigye, had Besigye been found to have committed these offenses, Mr. Museveni ought to have instructed Ugandan consular mission in Kenya to provide Besigye with all the necessary appropriate support. That's what you do to a country, especially if it's a country that is founded by Uganda People's Congress, and we did it for you. So as a nation state, that's what you do. So in other words, Mr. Museveni should not have to comment, meaning you leave the burden of responsibility to the Kenyan authorities to go through that. And in the very least, you advise the Ugandan security services, meaning in this case, police really, and forensic experts, to link up and to see how they can help on that, particularly if you think the offense has got implications on Uganda.
No, if they did the offense in Kenya, I'm thinking that is already the proximity they should be.
No, because I'm sticking to that. The jurisdiction in Kenya, I'm saying, in the unlikely event that there was an association with Uganda and you're concerned,
there would be a formal way.
Then you can say we provide them with necessary information. Okay. But the one thing that Mr. Museveni needs to be doing to Besigye is providing consular support for Besigye in a civilian court as going through part of the due process in Kenya as a Ugandan citizen.
Mr. Odaka, comment on the evidence itself, but also does Martha Karua's leading the counsels of Dr. Besigye really change a lot?
No, one, from the evidence, I do not want to discuss the merits, what and so on, because of sub judice, but let me say this. I realized NRM, even when they thrive and survive on propaganda, even when they have an opportunity to do some good work, they do it so shabbily. I really love
when that. When they cheat, they even copy the name.
You see, when they cheat, they copy the name. You see, you want to, honestly, this age, that's why when you listen, if you have evidence against somebody, so the best way is to go and put it in social media.
Precisely.
You put it in social media so that, you see, these guys forget that this is not even which generation is it? Gen Z generation.
Gen Z generation.
This is
X.
one of the smartest generation ever existed. Yeah. By the way, me, in my office, small office, I have an IT section. I gave my boy, I told him, first test this. They don't know people now have ways of testing this. And the thing has a lot of red flag, meaning that is most of them likely to be AI manufactured. I'm telling you, I tested it from my office in Lubaga here, and red flags everywhere. So even when they have an opportunity to do something better, they do it in a shabby way.
Okay.
That's one. Two, when you look at what Joseph was mentioning, you see, Jamiri Mukulu.
Yes.
When he was arrested in Tanzania.
Exactly.
Jamiru Mukuru, there was a court to process the extradition order.
Exactly. It was done.
And it was done.
Yes.
Jamiru Mukuru,
Step by step.
who is a rebel,
Yes.
known, charged with terrorism, murder, and all those. So what was that agency that it could not allow these people take the due process of law to get Besigye here, if indeed he had committed the crime here? 3, you see, all whatever...
You can also intertwine it with the FDC members, because...
yes, of course. For now it is Besigye, but you see, the whole thing is just... there are many more by there. But people do not know that there are many people who are neither FDC nor Besigye,
Yes.
who have been abducted, and because none, Ochieno and me and you, do not know them, nobody can talk about them on this platform. Because by the time they go and abduct Besigye, who has a name in that manner, really, what do you imagine about many people who do not have names? You see? I always give this example. By the time they beat, torture, and do whatever they can do to people in front of camera, imagine what they do
Without camera.
without camera.
As you conclude on
So,
that issue.
then the last one, you're talking about Martha Karua. I think for me, when I saw Martha and we sat on the same bench to that court, I was happy for one thing. That now, Martha said this when we were laughing, and said, you people, I have always been known that this regime is bad. Things are bad in this. This is what she said. I have always heard that the thing, but I didn't know it is this bad. And she did this. She said, don't worry, Ugandans, it is going to end.
Wow.
That's the word the mother said today.
Okay.
So for me, I think Martha's coming gives a new perspective to what we have. At least let those foreign eyes that, by them Museveni fears the foreign eye because he's a peg boy of those foreign people. Let those ones also come and see what we have been.
And just for 30 seconds as we conclude this, that talking about it from Martha's perspective, the Marthas et al. For all the last 40 years, I want to take it back again, we're shouting, and the extraordinary thing, apart from Museveni's masters, meaning for whom is Nyampala, meaning external forces, is extremely irritating in East Africa, including in Kenya, where some Kenyans used to say that, oh, we're complaining for nothing because Museveni is a quarter Jesus kind of stuff. You know, and it gets very irritating. So there's a bit of that. But look, in the event that there was a UPC government tomorrow, you know, I would actually take on Ruto. So the Kenyans really owe us Mr. Besigye. We need to know from the Kenyans, and the Kenyan authorities must be held to account for what actually happened to Kizza Besigye. So Martha has returned to Nairobi, whatever happens, whatever happens here, that is absolutely fine. But no, Ruto and his regime have got absolute responsibility to explain the torture of our young people from Kisumu, you know, because I go to Kenya, I resent the idea that I walk into Kenya or walk to Tanzania, and then I feel like a quarter citizen, and I resent the idea that a political leader in Uganda goes to Kenya and gets abducted. So lest we forget, focusing on these ordinary bandits here, whatever is happening in Kenya. And you know, it is completely unacceptable.
Let's then go to the topic of discussion, the Federation of East Africa. Your former leader and was one of the vision bearers of a federated East Africa.
It's not our former leader, our founding president.
Your founding president.
No, not mine. Our founding president, Uganda. As an can put it, no, Milton Obote. No.
Founding president, the prime minister.
Milton Obote is the founding father of the Republic of Uganda and founding leader of this African community. And you talk about it from that, as we, as Ugandans,
yes,
non-partisan.
Yeah. In fact, Mr. Museveni also commended him in one of his speeches for the East African region. 25 years.
When it is convenient.
When
you see him commending, it is absolutely unavoidable.
Because I was wondering.
He's up to something. He's up to something.
It was an accident.
Said I want to thank Jomo Kenyatta.
He was up to something.
That man was sick, man. Did he mention about his name?
I think.
Bambi.
To check the temperature.
We are still answering the hotline. Sir, 25 years down the road,
Yeah.
where are we as a community?
It's
as
a
East
shambles.
Africa?
It's shambles.
Remember
is
now we are more than even 5
It is shambles. It is shambles and it's shambles. 25 years after the revival of this African community, that a Ugandan opposition leader, a person who within the last 25 years almost certainly may have been president of the Republic of Uganda,
Yes.
if it had not been for some dubious deals in the Republic of Uganda. And that's for the record. That this gentleman goes to Kenya and gets abducted in Kenya and brought here. So that tells you that this community nonsense is not working. Okay? 25 years, Edgar, maybe you might be lucky. I don't know how many members of the East African Legislative Assembly from Uganda you can name. Me, I don't want to pretend I cannot give 3. You know? And if you want to embarrass me on that, like people who do fiscal policy and taxation, let's come back here for the following week. I cannot name 3. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Number 3, I don't know how many people can tell you who's the Secretary General of the East African community. And I don't know how many Ugandans watching know who the Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly is. And I can also tell you that you can take a university graduate test to tell average Ugandan students, and take away the students from sciences, or we could even general aptitude test across the universities. Today, I can tell you the pass rate will be very tricky. How many countries are in the East African community? Just what we should do in civics. Yeah?
Yeah.
Number 2, the names of the presidents, some of these funny dictators of the East African community, yeah? All of them. And properly spelled. You know, properly spelled. Okay? You know, I'm telling you, you'll be failing like that. Do you get what I'm talking about?
Yes,
you
I
know?
get you.
And by the way, you might even ask, including university graduates, what are the capitals of all the East African community nation states? Including, by their possibility, what is the headquarters of the East African community?
So you mean
Edgar, am I talking to you?
Yes. What you're saying is actually true. It's true.
So that is, after how long? 25 years extraordinarily. But young man, let me tell you this. Before this bunch came from the bushes, and even as the community was just collapsing and there was a little boy in primary school, granted there were 3, so some guys will say for statistical reasons, maybe that's the more just for things, Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. But you know, interestingly, at the time, an average Ugandan primary school kid could count the list of all ministers, cabinet ministers in Uganda, and will tell you all the key positions in Kenya and Tanzania.
Yeah.
And then, as part of civics, we could tell you about the East African Common Services organizations that existed, whether it's transportations, airways, industry, headquarters for harbors, headquarters for railways, and headquarters for research like trypanosomiasis, plus others.
Whose land has been taken?
Whose land? You know, so we'll do those. And Edgar, you can imagine that the community before this one, once upon a time, we're moving towards monetary union.
Yeah.
And 25 years today, I repeat, BCJ is abducted. And 25 years today, you may not necessarily travel easily to many of these East African community countries with your national ID.
You can't travel to every East African
Not all of them.
All of them.
So
with just a national
I'm saying you may not. Because you may get, I don't know whether you can walk in the Congo border, Rwanda border, you know, kind of, some of them, yes. But I'm talking about, I'm telling the complaints that you get from people in terms of how people are being treated is crude. And I don't know how many of them you can go and live freely and work.
Ochieno, aren't you using a negative light or a negative sight of this, or a view of this particular issue? Because one would say there is now free mobility of human capital. You can move from here and work in Kenya. You can travel with a national ID.
Do you know my other middle name?
Also free mobility of trade. You know, you can export and import. And you're trying to just not look at the achievements that these guys
you know, you're a young, fantastic journalist, and I always like you, and I pray you continue growing. But I want to tell you that one of the most senior journalists in a very big media house, you know, may this one grow, actually calls me the #1 optimist of UPC, and he also calls me the #1 optimist of this country. Because part of my slogan is, this country is better, it's possible, I believe in better. So I am an absolute optimist. But guess what? Like Thabo Mbeki, I am an African. And so I live what I'm telling you. So young man, no, there is nothing simply crude about this continent that I don't want to pinch, break, and broke and burn. I am completely an impatient Africanist. You know? So, you're not accusing me. So to suggest that I am talking gloom, no, I am talking excess despair. How a bunch of illegitimate men, predominantly, have come and broken the hope of our founding parents for East African community. So, no, the community expansion was done too quickly. The community expansion was done to serve the interests of Museveni plus a few of their friends. The community expansion was done in part to rack for gold. The community expansion in part was done to guarantee particular security interest. The community expansion in part was done to expand its sphere of influence on behalf of Anglo-America. The expansion was done not because of the founding values. No, and it has never been. It has never been. That is why nobody can explain to you why Somalia is a member of this African community and what broadly it brings. Nobody can explain to you what South Sudan brings, apart from being our neighbors and brethren. You know, nobody can explain to you that. And by the way, nobody can tell you what especially Ugandans get from the South Sudan today as a member of the East African community. You know, which it couldn't. No, couldn't they?
Okay.
Couldn't they? And in any case, I talk about South Sudan because we, Uganda People's Congress, you know, we're first enablers of SPL in 1983. Lest people forget, you know. So and Congo, no, we got Idi Amin, you know, because of Britain and Israel saying not to us because no, because these are our people. We are desperate. Just in 30 seconds, we're absolutely desperate to have the United States of Africa.
Yes.
And in fact, those of us and our founding parents who were saying start with Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania to build this African community, they were desperately seeking to strengthen this open and expand structure.
Exactly.
But no, the thing has lost
That's
course.
what Mr. Museveni
Now it has no leadership. The people whom we have now are rulers who are pushing their agenda. In others, they are breaking the possibility of the realization of a genuine East Africa.
When I come back to you, I want you to comment on now Ruto being the chairperson and the leader of the East African community. The person that you are demonizing. Like,
I'm not demonizing Ruto. I'm just holding Ruto to Ruto, the man under whose hands Besigye was.
Exactly.
All right.
That one is the one, the new leader. Odaka, 25 years down the road. He paints a very oblique picture. But for me, I look at there's something that is really working. What do you think about, what's your assessment of the 25 years of this federation?
I was almost turning the interviewer by asking what is that is what. But secondly, we can get to...
which should be smiling now.
Secondly, what my senior brother was talking about, and you said is bedeviling Ruto. Honestly, does Ruto need to be even bedeviled to be? No. What really? You just mentioned Ruto. You just mentioned Ruto, and somebody will tag a name. There are those who call him Zakayo. There are those. So leave the man to do his work. But you see, people normally want to accuse us. And I'm meaning us, including my brother Joseph there and so on. That you see, you people, you can't, isn't there anything good?
Exactly. That's something I always ask here. Isn't there something working? 40 years, 20 years.
I suffer with this young man every time. Okay, now I also deal.
There are things that are working.
You see, if you've been in existence for all those years and you want people to keep scratching their heads to know what has worked.
Your achievement.
I mean, sometimes we have no choice but to point out what things the way they are. We absolutely have no choice.
So you're
Let
just
me
the
tell
messengers.
you. For me,
yes, sir.
like Joseph, me, I do research a lot, I do what and so on. I even know that I have 2 close friends who are members of the IALA. But apart from those ones, I can't mention others.
You're very lucky. You've got 2.
Close friends who I talk to.
Please tell them that I would like to be a friend to one of them. Also. Seriously.
This one. Number 2, you see, if you asked me about the Secretary General of EAC, now, I will first have to get my phone and search. And yet I can remember a man called Salim Ahmed Salim many years ago.
Yes.
You get it?
Yes.
I think Salim Ahmed is the only one long. I mean, I don't know how many years I was in.
Because systems were there. It was there. Yeah.
You see? Because they would ask you, Secretary General, and you put. They would ask you this. You put. They ask you.
And
I mean, it was a PLOE question.
Yes.
PLOE question. Me and Ochieno and many people who come from the border. When you go to Malaba and you stand around Malaba, you know, no man's land, we have some no man's land, and you look Kenya, you look into Uganda, one who is there, do you really see something called, because they are supposed to, East African Federation is not supposed to be simply an issue of essay. It is supposed to be issues, 1, free trade.
Yes.
You and me know the struggles we've been having on milk.
With Kenya, yes.
On issues of maize.
Eggs.
Issues of eggs. Issues of chicken.
Yes.
Issues and so on. You and me, you may not know, but me and Ochieno will tell you that he may not spend a week without being told that so-and-so around Malaba border in Tororo or Busia or somewhere has been shot because he's carrying 2-3 bars of soap from Kenya coming to Uganda. You know, they are being shot every day. Killed, I mean killing them. When you get to EAC, the East African Federation, you know, they told us that even up to now, we would now be going towards political federation. You remember their roadmap?
Yes, exactly. One president.
Yes.
For all countries.
They told us by 2020 or 2022, we would be having one president. And therefore, all the others, as outlined under the East African Protocol, would be achieved.
And by that time, we would have already achieved the currency.
The common currency.
By the time we come to...
And so on and so forth.
Yes, exactly. I remember.
We have an East African Federation with this one parliament, but with the laws differently. Now, comrade and senior brother was talking about Somalia, was talking about South Sudan. When you go to Congo, you know Congo's entire defense and security is managed by SADC. By SADC, not East African.
No, but these days we've deployed.
No, you remember they chased away the East African standby force. You remember when Tshisekedi gave us...
Why did they chase them?
Tshisekedi gave us 1 week, you remember? Was it 1 week?
I remember the deployment.
And he said, these people are instead bringing here. He outlined his question. He said, number 1, instead of enabling the Congolese forces, they are instead using the East African standby force to help M23.
Yeah, I remember they are saying that it's bipartisan. And that's when he had a problem with Rwanda
and wherever. And he was surprised that everywhere where the East African standby force are, it's the area M23 were thriving. And immediately he chased them away.
Yeah.
All those areas, it looks like instead of East African standby force handing over to Congo, they handed over to I go to Unagana because it's where my wife comes from all the time. Unagana border is almost managed by M23. Ugandan, Sudan, M23. Today, up to now, we are talking. Go there, you're a journalist. So, if how do you admit a country within your community and another bloc is the one managing their security? What kind of... Look at, you tell me, apart from Ugandans going to sell Bogoya, Ginax, cabbage in South Sudan, which they would sell anyway, even if they were not member of the community, what else? What benefit would one say, okay, at least we have this one because of the community?
Osman, who's to blame? Is it the leaders? That
No,
are
it
not
is the
united?
leaders. So
Is
this
it
community,
the Africans,
this
the East
community
Africans that
is
are
number
not
one,
together?
like Joseph said, it is one to serve the Anglo-American interest. What they called, you remember the struggle until that country, Sudan, was broken into two, because one of the reasons was that at least to create a buffer for the spread of Islam and so on, the American interest, that in terrorism, and so on. So create a buffer. You know? The same with Somalia. Of what benefit is Somalia in this community? You tell me. Wouldn't it, if you're talking about Pan-Africanism, you know, until when Gaddafi died, until up to the time when Gaddafi died, and up to recently, that's when we realized that actually Museveni, although he pretended to be a good friend of Gaddafi on account of Pan-Africanism, himself, the words profession from his own mouth, he's one of those who betrayed Gaddafi.
Are you sure?
He said it. He said it with his own mouth, and he said, these people, that Gaddafi was a bad man. Gaddafi was mobilizing cultural leaders, you know, and cultural leaders on account of lying to cultural leaders that you see, you are the real indigenous and traditional leaders on which we could build this. And for him, he was saying he wanted to ignore them as presidents. He didn't know that for them as president, they are bigger than these cultural leaders. And therefore, that man wouldn't, you know. And for him, that was his disagreement. And that's how for him, he went for regional blocks while Gaddafi was building for him, Museveni was fighting the United States of Africa. He said it. So I am not really...
You're going to be fact-checked, sir. The people are watching you.
No, let them fact-check. He said it.
So Museveni is anti-Pan-Africanism?
Yes, he said, and he said, these American, he said...
One of his four core values?
I am telling you...
Pan-African?
Is it President Obote who said that when Museveni says something...
Yes. Museveni is, you know, according to Dr. Obote, yes. Museveni is a pathological liar. Who only tells the truth by accident. End quote.
And you know, Boniface Byanyima also said something about him in regard to telling lies. So when he's talking about Pan-Africanism, a Pan-Africanist does not go and do... Do you know that in Congo, other than King Leopold, the Congolese think the other second person who killed them most is Uganda. When you go to Congo now, that's what they say. Yes, they say it is King Leopold who killed about 14 million. The secondary cause of death is Museveni. When you go to Congo. So, the third thing...
What can be done as you conclude on that issue,
see,
but also paint a picture can it be achieved to have a practical East African community?
The NF Federation must not be based on the leaders. It should be based on the people. Unfortunately, the East African Federation was only based on the leaders meeting. And you tell me today, can Ruto, an alliance of Ruto and Museveni, go and come and sell to you an East African? You know what they are saying in Kenya now? In Kenya, they are saying, you know, there is a picture which... when you look at it from one angle, it looks like President Ruto. When it looks from another, it looks like Mr. Museveni.
I've seen that one, yes.
But that shows, to be fair to them, that shows an alliance. we are coming together,
but
you know.
Mr. Museveni,
and in any case,
for the
fact that NRA boys went and picked Besigye means that it's one country, you know.
No, but Ruto and Mr. Museveni have had a cordial kind of relationship over time, even when you were still deputy president.
But you see, unfortunately, we don't refuse, but you see, it is now proving to be that it was for the wrong reason.
Okay, can we have a practical East African community in your region?
As of now, no. People need people for now. It is something that I really yearn for. Yeah. But as of now, we need to really dismantle, because you see, you can't have a regional block, best when the individual countries are in a state like we have in this country. Now, let me tell you. You remember when Tanzania was chasing away Rwandese? You know, up to now, Tanzania and Rwanda are not very good friends.
Exactly.
Tanzania chased away Rwandese, and Rwanda itself refused to receive them.
Yes. They
instead entered here. Before we knew it, there was an executive order in northern Uganda. People were marauding the entire country. And the next thing...
Are you saying the Banyarwanda chased away by Tanzania from Tanzania are the ones who are now stealing and occupying land in northern Uganda?
They entered here, and they created for them a camp around in Tungam. And after about 2 months, all of them were not in the camp.
Yeah, because Uganda allows its foreign...
Yes, and they moved on towards northern Uganda. I was like, you were in West Nile. I was in Ajumani, around Ajumani, Moyo. You go and see the kind of people who are there. People who don't even know any Ugandan language.
Okay, I get you, sir.
So we need to identify practical issues upon which we can build trust. First of all, trust among our leaders, that when a leader tells you something, because right now, let me tell you, people now have the saying of everything born of a snake must have a long tail. Everything Museveni says will not be trusted by any Ugandan.
Same with Ruto in Kenya.
And it was
Kenya,
with Ruto.
Nobody is trusting.
Now, how can you build? Now, where will you build
Lastly,
the
maybe
single
comment on Rwanda, because Rwanda is in this block, looks like one strategic country that is developing on a fast rate.
You see, it looks like Rwanda itself, until recently, Rwanda also has no trust in Uganda.
Yes, yeah. We're just starting to fall.
But why? You know,
we're starting to
I thought the Rwandan state is plucked off from the Ugandan NRS state.
although at one time they said it is our 38, when we had 37 districts, they said those are the 38th district. You see, once you have a bully, because at Kagame called Museveni a bully. That's the word he used. You have a bully around here. Rwanda doesn't trust Uganda. Burundi and Rwanda are not good friends, even when they speak the same language and they have the same people.
Congo is not working with Rwanda.
Although Uganda president and the Kenya president are friends, the people are not together. So Congo does not work with Rwanda and Uganda also.
We have an issue with
so tell me.
Okay. Let me come to him.
This is absolutely not.
As we are coming to the end of the show, sir, how best can we achieve an East African community that is political in the real sense of the word?
A proper East African community will not be realized under the current dictatorships in the region. The nearest relative stable country, notwithstanding whatever they're doing with the opposition, is in Tanzania. The country that we thought had the rule of law until one of my colleagues went missing is Kenya, in the entirety of the East African community.
Yes, sir.
Congo is a fragile country that is basically seeking survival. Congo is a country under occupation which is literally being blackmailed by bully boys from the east. So this continent doesn't have leadership. It's very urgent. I talk about this very often. And looking through the contemporary leaders really in office, I can't count many. In the whole of East Africa, I don't know a leader that bangs the table. Paul Kagame is very clear. I've told your programs that you may hate him, you might have your views and opinion about him. He has his very clear perspective about what Rwanda is, where Rwanda should go for him and Banyarwanda and Rwanda. So as a country, Kagame has an idea, and it's not an idea of sinking Rwanda. It may be an authoritarian way, whatever, his way, but that's Kagame's way. In Museveni's case, it's about Museveni, the individual, his family, his few people around him because he doesn't have friends. Do you know any Museveni's friend? And hangers on, basically. Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Using Uganda. You know, the idea of the Africa project is a big project. Asuman, I just don't know.
But if we can't achieve ESC,
I
how are we
don't.
going to achieve our
That's interesting because I'm coming to that point. I don't know how Milton Obote, how Julius Nyerere, I'm counting them, how Kenneth Kaunda to an extent, how Kwame Nkrumah, Leopold Senghor, plus 2-3 others after the killing of Lumumba. You know, there were about 5, 6, 7 guys. These guys were genuinely serious about this continent, and basically they led this continent. Oh yeah, including Haile Selassie, in a way, and Abdel Nasser. You know,
Yes.
These guys had an idea about this continent. They carried clout. The continent was substantially under occupation. Level of illiteracy is still quite high. Communication in terms of infrastructure quite low. But these guys had an idea, had a vision, and they're pushing the continent. And so, as of 63, I'm concluding, as of 63, setting up the Organization of African Unity, if you look through the debates of Milton Obote, look at the debates of Julius Nyerere, and then you look at the debate of Kwame Nkrumah, and then there's one other, I can't remember who, I think I put it off, you know?
Abdel Nasser.
Abdel Nasser. It is extraordinary what these guys thought they could achieve, but it was extraordinary that their plan B was a functioning plan B that brought us back to the step-by-step progression of the East African community, particularly at the time, because part of the argument with the last of the Obotes was that Southern Africa was not yet free. So basically, what was it? So in an easy thing, that's how we set up the East African community, set up the frontline states. In their case, they set up the Mulungushi Club for specialist guys to push in this, to push in that. But then fast forward the East African community. I know you really don't have the time, but I need to say this. The community criteria for Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania was so solid, so visionary, so real, so functioning, so perfectionist, that actually the European Economic Community at the time picked from us.
Yes.
And British Prime Minister Teddy Heath himself said that. And I've got some other insider thing for another composition. The expansion of this African community, in conclusion of this one, once it was recreated, needed a convergence of criteria in which we had common language, focus for common language, common judicial system, common defense policies, common foreign policy, common monetary union, meaning a convergence of criteria in which the 3 countries, first of all, Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania, traditional member states, were set, and then when other nations were coming, you accede on terms, even if there is an observer, systematic, you must have met a certain criteria. Exactly. And I've suggested that in many cases, really those countries need to have gone for a referendum first before that happened. Yes. And that's why I say that a future East African post, Mr. Museveni, this is my position. I would seek to review, break the nonsense about their treaty, review and start with the 3 East African community nation states. You may end up with 3, 4, 5 anyway. You never know, 1 or 2 may come in very quickly. Work out a very clear convergence criteria and start the building blocks from there. Building blocks from there, but side by side with whatever is happening in Addis. So that really the integration of our people is not about East Africa, but a strategic integration of our continent, but on terms.
Okay. We shall get a day, and we shall also look at the African Union really in Ethiopia and how best they have done, because some people believe it's more of a ceremonial body than a practical
club of dictators.
At the moment
some
it is.
Are dabbing it that way. Asuman, please give us your parting shots as we come to the end of this conversation.
Well, for me, I think really this country, this country needs, especially the young people. When I saw Dr. Besigye in the dock, the man is 60-something. 67 going to 70. But you look at the Ochienos, here are the ones talking about the future of this country.
You've not had young people
It speaks volume about the state at which our young people are.
Okay.
these people no longer, these people, if it is the houses they've built, they are not looking for school fees, they are not looking for anything. They are actually not looking, but anything, they are actually living on borrowed life now.
Right now, Wesley does not care about food. That's not
He
a problem
doesn't.
to him. School fees
You
are
know
not a
that his
problem.
only son is now at PhD level
Yes,
with the
yes,
scholarship.
exactly.
So that should communicate to us that we need to double our effort. We need to be. I really thought it should have been a 27, because the Obotes, the 2730s would be the one. It would have made meaning to be the one in that door. That should have been. But now it is still Ochieno here struggling, going to Roro and so on. These guys don't have any back. These guys. So the youth in this country need to get back and wake up to the clarion call. And lastly, I want to thank all the members of NID, especially of West Nile. I really had whatever in West Nile, Northern Uganda and West Nile. So maybe next week, if you call next week, you may not find me because I'll be Karamoja and Teso.
Okay. Thank you so much, Odaka Asuman, and of course, thank you so much, Mr. Ochieno Joseph. And of course, to our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in from the time we started up to now. Gentlemen, the minister we have today for security, Jim Muhwezi, says that they found a problem as a generation and they found a solution to that problem in their time. So according to them, they've done what was their ultimate purpose in their time. So as a young man watching me today, what's your ultimate purpose in your time, in your generation? Have you identified a problem and have you come up with a solution to that particular problem? In your generation, how will you be remembered? My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. Do continue sending us those messages at Digitalk TV, then also at the Alternative Uganda. You can also go back on YouTube and watch this episode on those particular entities. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. I'll see you next Monday at exactly 7 p.m. Good evening.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.